Yo, what's happening everyone? Jinsula here with a brand new Pokemon Go video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's get right into it. Okay, so for the past couple of years, I've developed this reputation for being extremely negative towards Pokemon Go and Niantic. And it's mainly because a lot of the content that I put out is usually a lot of criticisms, especially whenever Niantic makes any kind of announcements. I typically highlight all of the negatives so that these sort of features can improve. That's usually the aim for when I make very negative content, but I could totally understand that for a lot of people it comes off the wrong way. They think I'm just complaining for the sake of complaining. And I do not ever highlight all the good things that Niantic ever does for Pokemon Go. So that's going to be the purpose of this video. I wanted to talk about some of the positive things that Niantic has done so that we could put a spotlight on it, because when it comes to the Pokemon Go community, it seems like a lot of players tend to only point out the negatives, and whenever Niantic actually does something really good for Pokemon Go, a lot of those positive reactions tend to get overshadowed by all the negatives that Niantic does. So I kind of wanted to combat that a little bit here and give a little bit of balance to my YouTube channel. I want to talk about 5 things that Niantic has done in the past couple of years that I personally feel like are really big positives for the game. So the first thing is, without question, probably the best thing Niantic has done over the past several years, and that is of course live in-person events. Specifically, I'm talking about Pokemon Go Tour and Pokemon Go Fest. Both of these have been a staple form of gameplay within Pokemon Go, and over the years they have done really good improvements to this event. Originally, when Pokemon Go Fest first happened, it was an unmitigated disaster, but over the years Niantic has continued to iterate and improve these events, and they did not really get a lot of credit for it. And I want to point out that when it comes to Go Fest, I never felt like there was ever a Go Fest where I felt like it was not a lot of fun. There was one or two that felt a bit stale compared to previous years, but I always had the perception that Niantic is continuously making these events better. Whoever it is on the Niantic design team that is in charge of Pokemon Go Tour and Go Fest, I really do feel like they deserve a lot of credit, because when it comes to Go Fest and Go Tour, they've always been really good. Like, one vast improvement to Pokemon Go Fest that I want to point out is having it split between a park experience and a city exploration experience. This has been a format that has worked really well over the past couple of years, and I'm really glad that Niantic is continuing to do it, because it definitely makes you feel like you're getting your money's worth if you travel to these cities for these special events. Like, for example, whenever I go to New York for New York Pokemon Go Fest, I always feel like the experience is incredibly positive, because not only do I have the park experience where I play with a whole bunch of Pokemon Go trainers and experience habitats and all the festivities, but I also get to explore New York City and experience New York City through Pokemon Go Fest, and I think that's incredibly unique. And Niantic has always provided players with a lot of bonuses, a lot of shinies, and a lot of rare Pokemon. It always feels like with Pokemon Go Fest and Go Tour, it's a worthwhile experience, especially when it comes to Pokemon Go gameplay. And another vast improvement with Pokemon Go Fest over the years is the fact that, well, they highlight a lot of different aspects of Pokemon Go in a really cool and unique way. And then on top of that, it used to be all about catching mythicals, like that was usually the major highlight of every single Go Fest, but over the years they've continued to improve it, where now there's something really special to look forward to with every single Pokemon Go Fest. Like last year, it was about getting Mega Rayquaza, as well as some rare Pokemon like Carbink. And then this year, it was about getting the fusions for Necrozma. There's always something really special with these special events, and it makes it feel like you're getting a super unique experience. So I really do like that Niantic has been improving these special events, and with Go Tour as well, I feel like that experience has definitely improved over the years. And I really do think that for this wild area event in the future, the reason why I was thinking about it so positively is because of how positive I feel about Go Tour and Go Fest. If there's anything in the game that I actually trust Niantic will do really well, it's going to be these special live in-person events, and I think the wild area event is going to follow suit. Now, the second thing that I feel like is a huge positive and something Niantic did really well is adventure effects. I'm talking about Origin Form Dialga and Origin Form Palkia with their adventure effect abilities, along with recently with Necrozma and its 2 fusion forms. This is a really cool mechanic. Don't get me wrong, I do think there's improvements that can be made, but I really do think these are really cool mechanics. They are something that are a huge positive for Pokemon Go. Regardless if you are someone who is brand new to the game or someone who has been playing for a very long time, these effects are actually quite useful. Like for example, with Origin Form Dialga and Origin Form Palkia, Roar of Time, as well as the Spatial Rend abilities, those are incredible for different events like community days. When it comes to using your daily adventure incense, it really elevates your gameplay and it feels very rewarding to actually use these abilities. I really do think they're great content, and there's something that they could continue to implement with other legendary Pokemon. And I'm really excited at the prospects of every year with a special event like Go Fest, Go Tour, as well as the new Wild Area event, they could do something really special with the Pokemon that you catch. And I really do think this is something that Niantic deserves a lot of credit for. It's really solid game design, and I hope they continue to implement it. Now, our third thing, which I see as a huge positive, is actually a recent addition to Pokemon Go, and that is Dynamax Pokemon and Max Battles. I know there's a lot of naysayers to this new feature, but you need to give it some time to cook. I really do think this feature has a lot of potential, and on top of that, Niantic implemented it basically bug-free and glitch-free. You gotta give them credit for that. It tends to be the case where they always implement new features in a beta state, but it really doesn't feel that way with Dynamax Pokemon and Max Battles. It really does feel polished, and I've never come across issues. Some players may have come across issues, and yeah, there's a bit of balancing issues right now with how difficult Phalanx is, but I really do think that the implementation of Dynamax Pokemon and Max Battles has been a huge success. It's another form of progression in Pokemon Go, which I feel like the game has sorely needed, and I think the sky's the limit. There's a lot of things that they could do to integrate Dynamax Pokemon into other forms of gameplay in Pokemon Go. I think with PvP and with raid battles, eventually we're going to be able to use Dynamax Pokemon in some way, and I'm really looking forward to that. I really do think there's so much potential here for some great gameplay, and Niantic is knocking it out of the park with the implementation of Dynamax Pokemon. And kind of in the same vein, I think another great implementation was Shadow Raids. Yeah, that is actually something that I see as a huge win for Pokemon Go. For the longest time, raiding has felt incredibly stale, not challenging, and just in general, just very boring with the rewards. But Niantic implemented Shadow Raids, which I felt like definitely spiced things up. They made other forms of gameplay extremely relevant, like with Team Go Rocket leader battles and grunt battles. You need to do those in order to get the shadow fragments or whatever, the gems, and then you use those gems to make your shadow raiding experience a lot better. I think it's great. Like, the way they designed it was actually perfect, in my opinion. Shadow Raids are incredibly difficult compared to regular raids, and then on top of that, you have these special items that you need to farm up in order to actually be able to do them. It's a lot of really interesting and unique gameplay, and it definitely has a lot of good complexity. So yeah, give credit where credit is due. I think Shadow Raids is a huge win. And then of course, we have Shadow Legendaries that you can get from Shadow Raids as well. They're kind of like a form of elite raiding content, which I think a lot of players tend to be very sour towards elite raids, specifically with the way that they're designed and with the history of them. But at least with Shadow Legendary Raids, it does feel incredibly rewarding, considering that you could potentially get yourself a shiny Shadow Legendary, which is the absolute dream. And I think the way that they implemented them with the introduction of Shadow Mewtwo as the first Shadow Legendary, that was pretty massive, because they could have gone with any Shadow Legendary that is mediocre, but they decided to go big right off the bat, and I think that was a really good move. So yeah, for what it's worth, I think Shadow Raids is a huge win for Niantic, and we do need to give credit where credit is due. They definitely did a good job implementing them. I do think that there are some improvements to the shadow rating system that they could make. I think recently there were issues with the power gems, which needs to get ironed out. And then of course, it's incredibly unpopular that you could only do them in person. I totally recognize that, but at the same time, I do think that they're a great addition to Pokemon Go, and hopefully Niantic will continue to iterate on them to make them even better. And then finally, this is probably my most favorite thing that Niantic has been doing as of late, even though some of the content that I put out tends to suggest otherwise, and that is the fact that they're having a lot more frequent raid days along with limited research days. For the longest time, the only monthly content that we had that was consistent was community days, and I felt like the game needed a lot more. In my vision of Pokemon Go, every single weekend would have some sort of special event for you to participate in. This could include raid days, limited research days, something like Pokemon Go Fest, and I really felt like that was something that Niantic should have implemented a long time ago. And you know what? They have started doing that, because with every single month, it seems like we're getting ourselves some sort of raid day, it seems like we're getting ourselves some sort of limited research day, and it's a win-win for everyone, because for players, this is some great content for you to engage in. And then on Niantic's end, they can make a lot of revenue with these different events. So yeah, I think it's a great success that Niantic is continuing to add more of these monthly events. Yeah, even though I might be negative towards some of them, like recently I made a rant video that was incredibly unpopular regarding Mega Mawile, but I still feel like it's a huge win that we're getting a lot more raid days. Even if the Pokemon are not relevant, it's still a great time for players to get certain Pokemon and get a lot of content in on the weekends. Yeah, I think it's great that we're having a lot more raid days along with limited research days, and I hope Niantic continues to do them. So yeah, these are 5 big wins that Niantic need to get credit for. I think Pokemon Go does have a lot of positive things that happen every so often. It is still a game that a lot of players enjoy, and there's gotta be reasons why people are continuing to play this game, aside from the Pokemon IP. Yeah, there have been a lot of missteps on Niantic's part, there have been a lot of things that have been incredibly unpopular, but at the same time, I do think that Niantic still has capable developers at that company who can create some great content every so often, and I think anytime they do that, we as a Pokemon Go community need to give some positive reinforcement by actually highlighting these wins and giving them credit where it's due. So yeah, in any case, that's going to be it for this discussion video. Let me know your thoughts regarding everything that I talked about down below. Is there a particular thing that I should have mentioned that you perceive as a huge win? Definitely share what that is, and let's have a great discussion. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you in the next one.